I normally start my reviews of Belgian series with some kind of joke about how the Dutch-speaking side produces masterpieces such as Tabula Rasa, while the French-speaking side produces The Break. But it's getting so true that it's not even funny anymore. It'd be like walking on stage and being like, how about that pandemic, folks? I'm very sorry for your loss. If you found this channel through one of my reviews for Tenet, then welcome and thank you for watching this foreign series review, the assumed knowledge for which will be that Dutch-speaking Belgium has produced Tabula Rasa, which was excellent, Undercover, which was really, really good, and The 12, which was just okay. And now this, Die Dag, or The Day. It's actually been out for quite a while now, but it didn't have a very wide release as far as I know. It's only come to SVT Play, where I watched it this year. You'll be able to watch it there. It's completely free and legal. You will need to speak Dutch or Swedish. I guess you can find it somewhere with English subtitles. I'm going to leave that to you. But this series is definitely worth finding. You go and do it. You find it, get the subtitles that you need, and you set aside 3 evenings to watch it. 4 episodes per evening. That's what I call the semi-binge. It's the best way to watch a series. Don't do the full binge. You're better than that. And if you're not better than that, then the series is better than that. The Day is basically an ensemble drama about a bank robbery. But describing it for you like that doesn't really do it justice. I realized when I was rewatching part of this to make this review that there are things that immediately switch you on to watch this properly. It doesn't feel like they're just kind of going, hey, let's make a bank robbery series. It takes its time with all these really carefully planned shots and smooth edits and small reveals. Even off-camera sound effects that all sort of work to put you on edge. It's telling you, this isn't random, you're seeing this for a reason, pay attention. But it does all this without you ever actually being able to see the director's hand in things. You never stop and think, oh, I see what they're doing there. You just subconsciously take it seriously because it feels serious. And that's a result of everything. The photography is dark without that sort of deliberately dark so that we can show that we're metaphorically dark kind of feel. It doesn't look underexposed, it just looks good without looking cheerful. The dialogue and the setting up of the plot is almost perfect. You hear little bits of information in each scene and you don't know how they go together or what they mean, but you know that there's a reason you're hearing them. So you never get so much information that you can predict what's going to happen, but you never have so little information that you just get bored. This is a mystery before it's even really started. No one's dead, no one's missing, but there are things unknown to us, and they're more intriguing than most murder mysteries. When you think about it, pretty much all good stories start with some kind of mystery. Action movies normally start with an action scene that we don't fully understand or sometimes don't understand at all, and Die Dag takes this a step further, because each episode is actually only half the story for that time period. We'll see one episode entirely from the police's perspective, and then the same period of time in the next episode from the criminal and hostage perspective. And if that sounds a bit pretentious, I can understand how it would, but the way they use it is so clever. Despite sticking to this format through the entire series, they never use it as a gimmick. It's always a tactic that works for them. The Day is an excellent study of perspective. I was reasonably unaware of the use and the power of perspective in film until I watched a video about its use in Chernobyl, which I'll link to in the description if you're interested. The Day is not quite the same, but perspective is still really well handled, both on the macro level, like I said with the episodes, but also on the micro level, where camera and editing is used to shift between perspectives almost ostentatiously well. For example, in the first 10 minutes of the first episode, there's a shot that's almost like a statement. It's almost like they're saying, this is how it's going to be. This ain't a French-Belgian series. We're doing this properly. It's a 3-minute take that involves about 5 conversations between about 10 characters, all of whom are on the move the entire time along with the camera, both indoors and outdoors. And it's technically masterful, yes, but it also tells you so much. Firstly, it tells you about the geography of the police negotiation setup, who is where and what they're doing, but it also tells you what kind of series this is going to be. Even if you're not the sort of person who's going to notice a 3-minute take, it still gives you this kind of subconscious feeling of like, this is real, this is a bit more serious than your ordinary TV, get ready. There are also some echoes of this shot throughout the entire series, little clever shifts in perspective and sneakily good editing. This series could definitely be used in film school lectures because from a shooting and editing point of view, you basically cannot fault it. In terms of story, it is much more than watchable. Lots of characters and bits and pieces of their lives are brought together in an extremely complex web. If I had to fault it, I would say that the craft we see with the camera and the editing is not quite matched by that of the craft with the writing. The day is sort of supposed to unwind into something much bigger than we originally thought it was, and it does so successfully, but as it does, the craft seems to just fall apart the littlest bit, and we get a few too many characters who are being talked about rather than shown, and it all gets a little bit messy. That's not to say that it's bad. I'm being deliberately picky here because of how perfect the opening 4 to 6 episodes are. I would just say that overall, it feels like the series is on a very gentle slope downwards from start to finish, but I mean, I'll take that over the break, which just starts nowhere and goes nowhere. Another thing I'll say is that given how much effort is put into establishing a certain feel in the first 2 episodes, which is very, very strong, it's a bit of a shame that the first scene is kind of confusing in that it's not directly relevant to the story. I won't talk about it too much, but basically it feels like it's something very different from what it actually turns out to be, and you just spend the first couple of minutes confused as to what's going on here. And I thought it was actually going to start at the end and then go back to show us how we got here, but it turns out to be something totally different and just not all that important. And it just seems a little bit weird that they went to all this effort to establish this amazing first episode, but kind of messed up how they portrayed this one event. Having said that, the acting performances in this series are excellent. Now, I don't speak Dutch, but the presence these people have, both on and off screen, because there's a lot of talking on the phone, it's so gripping. If you were to try and describe some of these scenes, you could hardly make them sound more boring. In terms of heist plots, this one has more talking than most, and a lot of it is on the phone with the other side unseen. So you are literally being told things rather than being shown them. But they just find a way to make this interesting. And because it's so well made, because we're so interested, we play a more active role than we would in a series that's only half as good. We know from the very start that certain things are being hidden from us, characters are lying, people are not who they say they are, and it causes us to question everything. Didach is very aware that we've seen crime series before. We know certain things from our experience with other crime series, and it uses this to its advantage, as opposed to a really mediocre series, which will act like we owe it our attention because it exists. This series, on the other hand, commands our attention because it's a puzzle worth solving. It's interesting to even be involved. I've mentioned already that not everything in this series is perfect. That beginning is not the only bit that's confusing. Towards the middle, we start tripping over a lot of characters, and it just gets a little bit hard to keep it all in mind. Now, it's good when a series is not too simple, but a lot of this is talk about characters, and it starts feeling a little bit more like what I imagine real police work would feel like, and less like watching a series. And the same goes for the amount of money involved in this robbery. I'm sure I missed something somewhere along the way, but it just doesn't sound like that much money. Now, they're going for a more realistic kind of angle, as opposed to the Ocean's 11 $15 million or whatever. But at times you kind of wonder whether this amount of money is worth all the effort that they're going to get it. I may have missed something, but I'm totally fine with that because watching this whole series again would not only be very doable, but maybe even better than the first time. Even just the bits I glanced at to prepare this review, I saw some shots that take on a different significance when you know everything that happens. And it would also be a pleasure to rewatch for the technical side of it, because for most of it you're so invested that you're not paying attention to how well shots are set up or how well a transition of perspective is made. Die Dag is technically brilliant with an intriguing and well-rounded story, good performances from everyone involved, a competent and fitting musical score, and overall I highly recommend it. Highly recommend is my 9 out of 10. So guys, if you liked this, make sure you're subscribed. Obviously, also leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought of the day. If you haven't seen it yet, go and watch it because I just told you to. So hurry up.